In the late 1800s, there were several failed attempts to connect Vancouver by rail across the Cascade Mountains to Yakima. Although the goal was never realized, the rail that was finished did have an impact on the development of Clark County. Today, I would like to describe the railroad, its location, and a brief history of the line, and list some reasons the line is good for our community and talk about a vision for the future. The Chelatchie Prairie Railroad has been known by many different names over the years, most recently the Lewis and Clark Railroad. It's 33 miles long. It starts around Northwest 78th Street and Lakeshore Avenue, where it connects with the BNSF line at Rye Junction. The end of the line is in Chelatchie Prairie. This map depicts the route and how it bisects Clark County diagonally and lists the communities that are along the line. Who's who? The railroad and the right-of-way are owned by Clark County. The Portland-Vancouver Junction Railroad, PVJR, has a lease with the county to operate on the line. Eric Temple is the owner of PVJR. Battleground, Yacolt, and Chelatchie Prairie Railroad, BYCX, is an all-volunteer organization that runs a tourist train from downtown Yacolt. The Railroad Advisory Board is a group appointed by the Clark County Manager. Railroad history. This is going to be a brief history of the line. If you're interested in learning more, the Clark County Historical Museum published a great history written by Greg Harrington in their 2023 yearbook. Originally proposed to reach Yakima from Vancouver, construction of the track started in 1888 but did not reach Yacolt till 1902. In 1902, the Yacolt burn devastated the area. The railroad was crucial for salvaging the burned logs and bringing them to market. Besides freight, passenger rail service was offered to Yacolt from 1903 until 1932. Since there were no viable roads year-round, this helped the area flourish. The track was extended to Chelatchie Prairie in 1950, after Harbor Plywood acquired the mill in 1948. The rail line was critical to the economy of northern Clark County until 1979, when International Paper closed their mill in Chelatchie Prairie. The rail line was purchased by Clark County in 1986. Here are some of the justifications for acquiring the line. Stimulating economic development along the tracks. Promoting an excursion train as a local attraction. Create a 33-mile-long trail adjacent to or along the right-of-way. And preserving the right-of-way for future utilities. Challenges. For most of the railroad's history, Clark County was mostly rural. Rapid growth starting in the 1970s has residential development building close to the line. Rail car sizes in the early years were a fraction of the size that modern-day cars are. Since Clark County has owned the line, there's been a push to upgrade the rails and ties to modern standards. There is still a lot of old rail in place. Land use. Light industrial land adjacent to the line is commonly used for non-rail uses. For the railroad to thrive, there needs to be real estate available for companies that will use the line. Why is rail better? One rail car can carry 3 to 4 times the freight of a truck. Rail transport is cost-effective, moving large quantities over long distances. Freight railroads are much safer than trucks when measured by mile ton. Rail requires less of a footprint and is more economical to build and maintain than a road. Environmental benefits. On average, trains are 4 times more fuel efficient than trucks. Steel train wheels help protect groundwater. Recent studies have shown that rubber tires release a chemical that kills fish. Reduction of greenhouse gas. By reducing the number of trucks on the road, the overall amount of fuel burned is reduced. Shortline versus mainline railroad. Rail companies like Burlington Northern and Union Pacific primarily operate by moving large amounts of commodities from point A to point B. They are not set up to move a few cars of product to businesses off the main line. This is where short-line railroads shine. Nationally, 20% of all products shipped on rail either started or ended on a short-line railroad. Traffic on the short line only serves customers on the line. Speed will be less than that of the main line. Portion of Clark County's track used for freight are rated as accepted track, which means that there's a speed limit of 10 miles an hour. Portions of the track used by an excursion train are Class 1 track. Other portions are not currently rated. If the track is improved to Class 2, the speed can be increased to 25 miles an hour for freight and 40 miles an hour for freight on Class 3. The amount of traffic will be significantly less than the Burlington Northern and Union Pacific main lines through south and west of Clark County. These lines are very busy and move more than 40 to 50 trains per day. Currently, the short line carries about 800 cars per year. The local short line would likely never see more than 2 or 3 freight trains per day under the very best of circumstances. Future transit. Given the rail line location between growing population centers, it may make sense to add passenger rail in the future. Advances in battery-powered trains may allow for less costly infrastructure. An electric pantograph system would be more energy efficient, but be more expensive to implement. Rail with trail. A study was commissioned in 2008 by Clark County to look at a trail to be aligned with the rail. The first section of the trail starting at Battleground Lake opened in 2011. The vision includes aligning the trail next to existing rail in non-industrial areas. There are no current efforts to add to this trail. Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. BYCX, the Battleground, Yakult, and Chelatchie Railroad, operates an excursion train using the name Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. They are an all-volunteer group. Their station is located in downtown Yakult. They operate from May to December. They seem to have their fair share of train robberies and headless horsemen, and the season always ends with a visit from St. Nicholas. Economic goals. Facilitate access to rail for local manufacturers and logistics firms. There are many small companies that would benefit by having access to the railroad for receiving raw materials and shipping finished products. Create job opportunities that offer sufficient wages to support families. Maximize the tax base by making better use of land located next to the line. Tax benefits. The assessed value of agricultural zoned property is a fraction of industrial property. Properties that are zoned industrial can help reduce the burden of taxes on residential properties. One of the biggest beneficiaries of an increased tax base will be our schools. Here are examples of the type of industries that would be ideal for a rail-served development. Columbia Vista Sawmill, Columbia River Carbonate, and Far West Steel. The railroad is a very valuable asset to Clark County. In this presentation, we provided a colorful, economical, and beneficial history of the Chelatchie Prairie Railroad. In addition, we've provided some future innovations and benefits of the railroad. We are focusing on the economic benefits in our ongoing advisory role. Those benefits are increased tax base, increased school tax revenue, increased jobs in Clark County, and overall increased economic growth in Clark County. We believe there is ample opportunities to provide industrial growth along the railroad and provide transportation of goods to and from industrial sites without the traffic of large trucks which denigrate the county's highways. Some of the unused properties along the railroad tracks can be converted to light industrial use, which provide a tax base which is 4 to 5 times the tax base of unused rural properties. The tax base carries with it an increase in the amount of taxes for the benefit of schools. In addition, those properties provide the basis for more jobs in Clark County. In the future, the railroad tracks could provide the basis for passenger traffic across Clark County. We sincerely hope that the residents of Clark County will join us in developing the railroad into an economic driver for all of us. Together, we can create ideas that can utilize this valuable asset to our benefit. We know there's some negative aspects to railroad use, but together we believe we can overcome the negatives for the benefit of Clark County. Please join us. We would welcome your support.